winning is an all-the-time thing, not just in the fall. Now, you got to win during the spring. So with that being said, now, who is winning the spring? I'll tell you what, you're winning right now by being dialed into college football during the spring season. It's April 2nd, Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024, the last one on the face of the planet. We got Auburn head coach Hugh Freeze joining the program here in just a matter of minutes. Tell you what, he jumped in the car, jumped in the Trey Kennedy mobile, took the 4.5-hour drive out to Auburn, Alabama, sat down with Coach for 15 minutes, talked everything from culture to Payton Thorne to Cam Coleman. Buy Cam Coleman stock if you're watching this in real time right now, because after we get off the air, I don't think any Cam Coleman stock will be left. Word of the wise. Great conversation with Coach. About to tell you about that in just a matter of minutes. About to show you that in a matter of minutes. Phenomenal time out there in Auburn. We got some intel for you from our visit at Auburn. We got to see they called it a walkthrough. It was really like a 3/4 speed kind of practice. People are still flying around. They're still throwing the football. They're still doing routes on air. They're still matching patterns. It was awesome to get to see that and to see the entire facility. That Waltos Performance Center, that's like a year old. It's an absolute spaceship. So we'll talk spring intel. We'll talk our visit to Auburn. Speaking of spring intel, going to start this show here. We got intel all over the country. We got scrimmages being played out there in Gainesville. We got ball being played in Tallahassee, Florida with DJU getting up to speed. Also, the good folks in Athens, Georgia, they're playing some spring football too. I would also buy stock in that offensive line at Georgia. More on that in just a matter of minutes. Glad to have you all a part of this. We're talking Ohio State recruiting. We're talking Bama success in year one. We're talking spring propaganda, as we always do on this show to end this program. The bottom line here, we're glad to have you all a part of this. We're glad that you are taking time out of your day to watch a show strictly about college football for an hour long, live and living color on the YouTube platform, on the On3 YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. But if you're more of a podcast person, like to throw in the AirPods while you're doing expense reports, maybe you're at the gym, had a lot of y'all tell us you watch while you're lifting weights or on the treadmill, we salute y'all, and we're glad to have you a part of this entire operation. So let's waste no more time, man. Scrimmage intel. It is running rampant. We got scrimmage intel out there in Gainesville, Florida. They had their first scrimmage of the spring season. Tell you what, man, there's a lot of conversation around, hey, we got Eugene Wilson, Trey Wilson, whatever you want to call him, just throw him the football. We got him, and he's going to be a weapon for us. Graham Mertz, we feel good about him. But who's going to be that other wide receiver? Well, we talked to some folks over at Gators Online yesterday, and Zach Alberverdi has been all over this. He's got a great report on the scrimmage as a whole, and he's been saying, man, Shamir DK, the transfer from Wisconsin, is going to be a dude, and he was a dude in the spring scrimmage. Multiple connections between him and Graham Mertz. Had a long touchdown in the spring scrimmage, or in one of the spring scrimmage, rather, the first scrimmage. The big thing with him, Shamir DK that is, that should excite Florida Gator fans, is there's already that chemistry built in between him and Graham Mertz from their time at Wisconsin. And the way that I see it, man, offensive football, the more comfortable you can make your quarterback, the more answers you can give him throughout the course of a play, the better chance you have to be successful. Shamir DK, that chemistry they have, it's been locked in for a while now. It showed itself in the spring scrimmage. Be excited about him and watch him to be a contributing factor for them consistently this season in Gainesville. That secondary, too, is looking strong. Good day at the office for the secondary. They are responding really well to that new secondary coach out there, Will Harris. By all accounts, he's been very hands-on. Some coaches throw on the sneakers, and they're out there with the whistle kind of directing traffic. Will Harris throws on the cleats. He says, listen, you want to see how to backpedal, want to see how to run this three-cone drill? Watch Coach do it. I love that personally from a player that fires me up. Devin Moore had a big day at the spring scrimmage, had a pass deflection, had what some folks are calling the play of the day out there in Gainesville. For that scrimmage, had a big-time interception where it sounds like he made a really athletic play on the ball, looked it in. Devin Moore, got to know, got to be excited about. Aaron Gates was dinged up last year. This staff feels like he might be the best defensive back that they've signed. He redshirted last year, but when he's healthy, he's a dude. He also had a good day. Also, they just feel like they have a more together unit overall with that secondary. They feel like they're more established. They had to play a lot of young bucks last year by nature of guys not being able to be fully healthy. And it showed itself last year in a very, very visible way. I mean, you look at what they did defensively, allowed 8.5 yards a pass. That's 124th in America. There's only 134 teams now. Okay, so only 10 teams were worse at defending the pass by that statistic than Florida. And to be able to make a leap personnel-wise and confidence-wise in that department, that's absolutely crucial for who they have to play on the schedule here. You got Miami, you're at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss. Georgia could be a little bit more of a vertical passing attack this upcoming year. To be able to hold it down better on the back end is just going to change the entire complexion, I believe, of Florida as a whole. So good signs so far in the secondary, a good day at the spring scrimmage, and yeah, that should encourage you. Now, obviously, if the secondary has a good day, somebody has to have a little bit of not their best day. DJ Lagway threw an interception, had some ups and downs during the day, and Florida fans are hearing this and saying, oh boy, what's going on with DJ? Hey, do we have issues in Gainesville? Is there a problem in that quarterback room? I wouldn't say that at all. I wouldn't say that at all, because I think it's important to remember here, the guy early enrolled at Florida. He's been on campus for like a cup of coffee and a few practices. This is his first real game-like scenario. I put air quotes out there for those of y'all listening on podcast. This is his first time playing 11-on-11 football in a game-like setting, and it went probably how it would go for most true freshmen. He's playing, I think, how he is right now. And what I mean by that is he's a really talented true freshman, the number one quarterback in the class of 2024 for us here at On 3. He's just figuring out how to play college football. Don't be overly concerned about that. Also be encouraged by the fact that he doesn't need to play game one. He doesn't need to be a guy that starts this year for you, because you got Graham Mertz with the experience he has in spades, going on his 39th year playing college football. So shouts to Graham Mertz, and I would not be concerned at all about DJ Lagway acclimating to the college game. To be expected. Sounds like he made some good plays with his feet. He's running with the twos. DJ Lagway is going to be just fine. I wouldn't be too concerned about that if I'm a Florida Gator fan. So a lot of good intel over there at the scrimmage from the Florida folks over there at Gators Online. Well worth the price of admission. Get a membership over there to stay locked in for all things Florida. Now for Florida State, we got some spring intel out there as well. Talked to our team over there at War Champ, the Florida State On 3 site. Again, get a membership there if you haven't already. They feel like this is the most talented team that Mike Norvell has had since being in Tallahassee. Say, whoa, JD, hey, they went undefeated last year. They didn't lose a game in the regular season. ACC champs, and this team is more talented, maybe less proven, but again, the feeling internally is there is potentially more talent on this roster. The wide receiver room specifically, you lose guys like Coleman, guys like Johnny Wilson, but I tell you what, man, there's a lot of buzz around the top-end speed in that room. A lot of buzz around A1 Malik Benson, who transferred from Alabama to Florida State. And when he got to Alabama, he was one of the top JUCO wide receivers. He might have been the top JUCO player in his cycle when he got there. The bottom line here is what you saw from him at Bama is different than what they expect to see from him this upcoming year at Florida State. And they think they're going to be able to push the ball vertical a little bit more with that entire wide receiver room. But Malik Benson, a guy that's gotten a lot of buzz thus far. They're really excited about the defensive line. And again, this is another position group where you're saying, hey, well, you lose Jared Verse, you lose Braden Fisk. Totally true, but the guys they got in-house right now, Patrick Payton, keeping him on that roster for a second, looked like he might be a portal guy, keep him in Tallahassee. That was massive. He had 7 sacks last year. I expect for him to be an absolute force this upcoming season in Tallahassee. Darrell Jackson, you know that name, but you're not sure exactly why if you're just a college football fan at a macro level. Darrell Jackson transferred last year from Miami to Florida State, and then the NCAA does what the NCAA does and just does things that doesn't make sense. He didn't really get to play last year. He got to play in the bowl game, didn't get to play last year, though, during the regular season. They feel like he's had a phenomenal development process since getting to Florida State. The words that I was told, the description I was given of him, he looks like an alien. He's listed at 6'6", 330, and I was told he's cut up a good bit. So, tell you what, you're 6'6", 330, and chiseled. God bless the poor soul who has to block you. Marvin Jones Jr., a transfer from Georgia, edge defender. It's a 5-star cat now in 2022. And just because you didn't light the world on fire at Georgia with how deep that roster is, how deep that defense is, does not mean that you can't play some ball. So they feel good about the defensive line. Yes, you lose some key pieces, but I think they feel pretty good about where they stand going forward. Another transfer, when you talk about Florida State, of course, you can talk about transfers. Earl Little, defensive back transfer from Alabama. They've been really impressed with him so far. They feel like he's a guy that's going to be a pretty heavy impact guy for them this upcoming season. Earl Little, of course, a defensive back who listed, I believe, at corner in the portal. He might play some nickel for them, so keep an eye on where he ends up playing during these upcoming spring scrimmages. Interesting note here, Earl Little played for Patrick Surtain Sr. when he was at American Heritage in high school. That was his defensive coordinator. Patrick Surtain Sr., of course, now is the secondary coach in Tallahassee. So there's already some chemistry there. They're kind of speaking the same language. He knows how to coach Earl Little to the best of his abilities, knows what language he responds best to. So I think that's encouraging if you're a Florida State fan to have a guy like him trending the way that he is right now. And then the question everyone wants to know, how's DJU doing? Because DJU and what he did at Clemson left something to be desired. He leaves, Clemson sort of gets worse. He goes to Oregon State. They score 30 points a game. Like, hey, what does DJU bring to the offense right now? Similar thought around spring football for most new quarterbacks is true about DJU. He's acclimating. He's getting his feet underneath him. It's a new system. It's a new place. It's new teammates, new receivers, new offense. Everything is new for DJU. So you're seeing some good. You're also seeing some things that need to be cleaned up. The exciting thing with him, for what I'm hearing right now in Tallahassee, is the fact that he can stretch the ball a little bit more vertical than maybe previous quarterbacks have been able to on that roster. I feel like he's got a big arm, and if they can dial it in how they want to with that top-end wide receiver group they have, with the top speed they have in that group, sky's the limit for this offense. They feel really, really excited about that. So DJU obviously holds the key to how multiple they can be offensively, but the vibes are high in Tallahassee, as they should be, and there's a lot of reason to be excited right now with the spring report out of Florida State. Now, one more team I want to get to here. Take a trip out to Athens, Georgia. The good folks at Dogs HQ, going to keep you in the know, man. I keep telling you, Rusty Mansell, Jake Rowe, Palmer Toms, like they crush all the coverage. Get a membership at Dogs HQ, Georgia on 3 site. Hey, Arian Smith right now, that wide receiver for Georgia that's sort of had a lot of buzz around him going into every single season in the sense of he's just got so much speed, such a big play threat. There's that buzz at the fan base level, but then there's stuff going on behind closed doors, whether it's just how he's practicing or him not being able to stay healthy. There's always been that what if with him, though. Right now, behind closed doors, sounds like he's lighting it on fire 3 weeks into spring football. They're really excited about the way that he's trending. And the feeling is with him, if he's able to become who this Georgia staff thinks he could be, meaning he's that big play threat, he's that guy that stretches the field, that changes the entire complexion of how defenses will have to play Georgia. Because Arian Smith now, he's real deal track speed. Like there is not many individuals in college football that will win in a foot race against number 11. And so you have that light bulb come on for him in 2024. You better play 2 safeties deep. And if you don't play 2 deep, you better keep 1 at like 12, 10 yards to make sure you honor the fact that he could burn you at any given moment. And so the reason why that's important now, if you have to play more of a conservative approach on the back end, Georgia can just pound the rock. For those of y'all listening on podcast and hear that sound, that is my hand going into my fist, because that is what they will be doing. They will be pounding the rock for 4 quarters, and they will make you say uncle. Other part of this, London Humphreys, he's progressing. Also a guy with really elite speed. They're excited about the way that he's trending, and that would be absolutely massive if they could have Arian Smith and London Humphreys both come into their own. That'd be huge. The defense still coming along. Now, that's expected. 55% of the production from last year is back. I wouldn't be overly concerned at the things that you hear or don't hear about this defense this early in the spring, because if I'm a Georgia fan, here's the deal, man. I trust the chef, and I trust the ingredients. The chef is the best defensive staff, or one of the best defensive staffs, one of the best defensive minds in college football, in Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann, and T-Rob. That's the chef. That's the staff putting the ingredients together. And the ingredients are top 3 class after top 3 class after top 3 class. From 2021 to 2024, they have not recruited outside of the top 3. There's a reason why Georgia's surgical in the portal, and they don't have to go and overhaul a bunch of talent every single offseason, because Georgia's got a lot in-house. Ellis Robinson was the number 1 corner in the class of 2024 for us here at On 3. He has been getting after it. Or sorry, industry, I believe he was the number 1 corner. Bottom line, he's been balling. Okay, we sat down with him at the On 3 NIL Elite Series event in Nashville, and you could tell the guy loves football. Like, he's one of those guys that from just getting to meet him, you understand, like, this dude is about the right things, and that's probably going to bode well when he gets into an environment that is Georgia's football facility and the way they compete, the way they battle. He had a really strong week, and they're saying that if he continues to trend this way, don't be surprised if Ellis Robinson gets some playing time. That cornerback room right now has got a lot of competition within it, but the way that he's trending now, don't be surprised if you see that true freshman Ellis Robinson get out there and make some noise. Also worth noting, with Ellis Robinson having played at IMG, he's played against college-level talent since being there. He's been in a college rhythm since being at IMG because it's a boarding school. You do football, you go to your meal, you go to class, you go back to weight training. Like, there's a rhythm here that he's not having to acclimate to that otherwise early enrollees or other true freshmen will and are acclimating to at this point in time. Half of college football for freshmen is learning college and then having to learn the football. Ellis Robinson doesn't sound like he is having any trouble with that at this point in time. Last note here on Georgia, there is a ton of confidence around that offensive line. Now, you lose Cedric Van Prant. There's no way around that. But they think they've got 5 maulers up front. And to have the folks internally at Georgia feel that way about those big human beings, let me tell you, they are big. I think the smallest one is something like 6'3" and like 310 is the smallest. This is what wins in the postseason in college football. Now, there's other ingredients too, like experience and not beating yourself and having good quarterback play. That's obviously a part of it. But when you can just dictate your tempo, play in and play out to the other team, and set the physical tone of a ball game by how your offensive line plays, especially late in the year when everyone's dinged up, everyone's tired, no one's 100%, and you can just call power right, inside zone left, call sweep, like whatever you want to call, you can do it and you feel confident doing it because of that offensive line, that's a game changer. And it sounds like that is the approach Georgia is going to be able to have if they want it with what they have up front. So if I'm Georgia, a lot of good vibes so far to spring camp. It's early on. We talk a lot about how you can't lose a spring if you're a fan base, and you shouldn't, but so far so good out there in Georgia. So again, Gators Online, the best in the business covering Florida, the Florida On 3 site. War Chant, the best in the business covering Florida State, our FSU site here at On 3. And Dogs HQ, same thing with them, creme de la creme when it comes to covering Georgia. If you want to be keyed into all things spring football for your favorite team, get a membership at their respective site under the On 3 umbrella. So we got some intel on Auburn here in just a matter of moments. But before we get to that, I, one, want y'all to make sure you're subscribed. 2, I want y'all to make sure you like the video. And 3, I want y'all to be able to hear this conversation that we got to have with Coach Hugh Freeze. Talk everything from Payton Thorne to Cam Coleman to the sort of resetting of a standard internally. It's a really transparent conversation from Hugh Freeze. Really grateful to have some time with him. And without further ado, here is our in-person conversation we got to have at Auburn with the head ball coach, Coach Freeze.
Well, we're here at Auburn with the man who's running the entire operation here, Coach Hugh Freeze. Coach, this is a palace. We walked in here. It's like a hotel. I mean, how much of a game changer is this for y'all to have this kind of facility here to show to recruits and to have you guys in?
Well, JD, thanks for being here, number one. And number 2, we are very blessed to have great facilities. And but you asked a question, and my word for 2024 is truth. It's like just 100%, no half-truths, no embellishments, no. We are blessed beyond measure at Auburn to have the stuff we have, but when I'm talking to recruits like I was right before I come in here, the one thing, look, everybody's going to have some shiny things. Everybody's going to have a nutrition center around every corner and more food than you can eat in this big weight room. But the one thing that's different, that I want to be different and is different, and I'm not saying that we're better or worse, but everybody gets to decide, but the one thing that's different is the environment from place to place. And hopefully with the great facilities we have, we provide an environment that is attractive to some really good players that may be a little different than other places.
Well, Coach, let me ask you this. Year one, a lot of new, obviously new role for you, new quarterback post-spring and Payton Thorne. What would you say were the big takeaways from that first year here at Auburn?
We did not compete at a level that I expected consistently. All right, so I have to look at myself first for that. Look, we all know that there's things that can happen in programs that the head coach doesn't control and all of that, but we all also accept that that's the deal. When we sign up for this, you are in charge, and the buck stops with you. And I did not think that the standard that we set, and again, it's my fault, I have no one to blame, for how to prepare week in, week out, every day. I didn't think I got that message across very well. And so the first thing I did when I got back from the spring game was get the newly elected culture council, 12 guys from our team, all from different positions, different sides of the ball. And truthfully, JD, I said, maybe I'm too old school and I need to learn to listen more. And I want you guys to come up with the standard that you would expect our team to have for everything. And I gave them a list. And then I asked them, is there anything I'm forgetting? I'm talking about everything from what our locker looks like. Well, maybe I'm too old school, and you shouldn't have to eat at training table 3 times a day, or even though we have, I don't know why you wouldn't. But, and I said, I'm going to step back, and I won't let you do it, and you present it to me. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to agree with everything, sure, but I want to hear it from your perspective, because I truly believe a player-led team are the best teams. And, and then now also, what happens if the standard's not met? What are we doing? Because I'm not okay with turning my head. I don't think that works out for you in life, me in life. I mean, the times that I've decided to go off on my own and just make decisions that weren't good, I didn't like the results. And I've never had a player that really long-term liked them either. They may think they do while they want their individualism, and I want to do what I want to do, but you're not going to win long-term as an individual, and you're certainly not going to win as a team. And so I have been absolutely thrilled from the moment they presented it to me. We made a few tweaks, and we talked through a few things, and then we presented it to the whole team and said, hey, this is a democracy right now. You got a problem with one of these, you need to say so now. Yeah. Because we're all going to say we're going to be accountable to it. And I've been really pleased with how that's gone with the player leadership, and I think it's carried over into, we're still a ways away. I mean, we had a great 24 class, and we got to add to that, but it's exciting to see growth, and I didn't think I see that.
Coach, you talked about like the players kind of setting that standard. When they presented that to you, was there a theme across the board that kind of could be an umbrella term for what that standard is internally now at Auburn?
No, they really didn't. Now, I teach a class to our team fall and spring, but the class I'm teaching this spring is called Words from a Father. It's words that I hope my children have learned, and that and my wife, probably her more than me, did a better job of teaching them what these words mean. So words like decision, what does that mean? Vision, failure. So failure was this week. So we've had a good discussion on, I really believe there's a struggle with the younger generation and any generation, but getting their identity through what they do. And that's really not who they are. But if that is how you get your identity, then failure is very, very hard. And really, you and I both know failure is just a myth. But Michael Jordan failed 9 of his 16 seasons, I guess, if we're going to say there's got to be, if failure is really, and I just think, I love Thomas Edison says, I've never failed. I just had 10,000 ways that didn't work before I got to the right one. But what I see is saw it Tuesday in practice. So we had some live periods, and one side pretty much dominated most of that day. And afterwards, they wouldn't recognize it as reacting to failure, but immediately I see the voices in the head. So what voices do you listen to when you don't get it right, when you do struggle, when you do fail at something or not succeed at something? And so I'm working hard on, can we please listen to the right voices? And that's how you get through the struggles of life.
Yeah.
And you listen to the wrong voices, you can spiral pretty quick.
There's a new voice on the field for y'all on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah. Coach Durkin, I mean, what does he bring to the table, and what do you expect from that defense?
I'm just been crazy pleased with the energy, structure, and thoroughness that he's brought to that side, and chemistry. And look, this is, man, I've coached with some great coaches, and we had great coaches here last year, but sometimes the chemistry is just off. And I'm big on that, and I think he's really brought a great chemistry to that side of the ball, and love his energy. That helps me. I'm getting older, and, man, I can't be the energy driver every single day for both sides of the ball and special teams, and so I don't have to worry about it over there right now. And he and Charles Kelly, that combination, I think, is really, and they just have welcomed the others that were here. And really pleased.
To bring the juice, it sounds like. Those guys, the Energizer bunnies on the field, sound like
they demand it.
Phenomenal. Well, with Payton Thorne, a lot of people forget, he didn't get spring practice last year. He came in after the fact. Showed how massive is that he has spring practice now, and kind of your expectations for him?
Well, it was massive because we've gone back to what I'm comfortable with offensively, and for him to be able to get the spring of us doing that in its totality with the verbiage and kind of how I see offensive football, I think it was vital that he get it this spring for sure, and I think it's going to pay dividends for him. Now, you know, I mean, quarterbacks take a lot of blame just like coaches do, and was he perfect? No, nor was I, nor was our coaches, but also, you know, good pieces around him usually make you better.
Sure.
I mean, the guy did throw for like 6,000 yards at his former school. Yeah, he had 2 NFL receivers there, and we just got to get, you know, we've got to elevate some of that around him. I think we have some. They're young, but hopefully that pays dividends also.
I mean, that segues perfectly, Coach, into my next question. Like Cam Coleman, our team at On 3 does a phenomenal job evaluating and ranking these guys, and Cam Coleman it seems like as good as there's been in recent history. How good can he be in your mind?
Yeah, I've had some good ones. You know, I was Dante Moncrief to Mike Wallace, then to Laquan Treadwell, and then Quincy Attaboy, Joe Evan, DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, Van Jefferson, and I'm every bit as excited about him as I was those.
Wow. I mean, he just this early on, too, even a few practices in, you're like, hey, he's got.
Yeah, he's something to him. And, you know, Lord willing, he stays healthy and everything, but he's playing next year, you know.
Is that physical, or is that like the way he's acclimated to the college game, or what about?
Well, he is the most humble, coachable kid. And that's rare in today's time to be that. He's just humble. So you got to give credit to his mom and dad and his family. But he's very coachable. Obviously, there's a lot of things he doesn't know, and you see it on film. I can see it out there before the ball snapped. Oh, he's not unsure, but that's to be expected. But when he's sure, he is really, really, really good.
He is cooking. He's cooking. Well, we're excited to watch him in the fall. Coach, y'all just landed a top 10 class in 2024. Obviously, I'm sure, like we talked about, this building probably helps things. What are those conversations like when you talk to those high-profile guys to get them to commit and ultimately sign with Auburn?
Well, again, I really think it comes down to picking the environment that is right for you. And I don't get to decide that, nor does another coach. We shouldn't. And there's a lot of things that go into it today, as you know, through these collective deals. And, I'm for our kids being blessed by that. I think it's the worst reason to choose a place, because I think that can go up, down, sideways. And I just think picking the right environment for you is going to be best for you to be developed to your capacity as a man, student, and player, more so than being in the wrong environment because, well, they gave me this or they did that. And I'm very transparent. I'll probably lose some because of it, but I think we're off to a great start in 25. I don't know what the rankings say and all of that, but I feel pretty good about where we are, and I think we're going to land another great class. And I don't know if this is right. I'm trying to be committed as much as you can be to the high school recruiting. I'm old school, and I may have to, not that we hadn't gone Portland, and we certainly will, because I can't control who leaves here, and you don't have another way. But, man, this used to be you really develop these genuine relationships with these families, and you went through the development process with them, and that's what you really enjoyed about seeing them grow. Heck, I got 7 guys in this building that played for me, I think, and now they have families, and I'm afraid we're losing some.
Hey, Coach, last question for you, kind of riffing on that. The transfer portal, obviously, like you said, got a lot of guys this previous cycle. When it comes to kind of that next evolution for you in year 2 at Auburn, is it portal heavy? Is it culture heavy? Like, what does a year 2 evolution look like for you in this last season here?
No, I mean, we're going to have to go to the portal, I'm sure, after spring practice. I would assume we would lose some, and we still have a few spots to fill. But I would always, when we start talking about the 25 class, I'd love to be high school heavy again. People may not want to hear that, and I mean, you certainly got to go for a few needs and replacements, but I don't know. I just think for the standard and culture to win long term, I think it's better if you do it that way for the majority. Sure. Again, it's never going to be that way totally for anybody anymore, but I would like for it to be that way, because I really still think there should be some substance to that relationship that you have with a kid through the course of the ups and downs and the hard, and doing the hard and going through the hard and becoming better, because 10 years from now, that's going to make them better. And I don't want to lose that hope that I have in that still being a good model.
Without question. Well, Coach, you got a million things going. You got media car wash, you got practice. We thank you so much for, one, inviting us, then two, allowing us to sit down and talk to you for a little bit.
Yeah, we appreciate all you guys do for our sport.
Not a question. Coach Hugh Freeze. Coach, thanks so much.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, we appreciate the good folks out there at Auburn for giving us a little bit of time to go check out the facilities and sit down with Coach. I left that conversation, man, super impressed with Hugh Freeze. It sounds like the things they're building that program on, the foundation of it, recruiting, doing things the right way from a culture standpoint, focusing on the details and the standard of what they're doing. Like, that was a really revealing conversation with the direction of Auburn football, in my opinion. So we really appreciate Coach for giving us that time. We really appreciate the good folks at Auburn for allowing us the access that they did. We got to watch a little, I say walkthrough because that's what they called it. It's a heavy teach day for them when we went down to visit them on Thursday. But to me, it looked like a pretty up-tempo practice with an emphasis on teaching. So got some intel for you on that in just a second. Also got some things I want to tell you all about from our visit that we got to take around the facility and just overall impressions. Got that for you in like 30 seconds. Before we get to that, though, got to make sure y'all know that the hard count is brought to y'all today by Prime Video. Listen, we understand March Madness is rolling. We got Final Four action here, I think, in just a matter of days. You need to sneak in those games while you're watching at work, while you're watching at home, wherever you're watching. Prime Video has got you covered. So watch every game live on your phone, on your laptop, or relax and watch at home on Prime Video with a subscription. Prime Video gives you choices to add on channels like Paramount Plus and Max, both featuring March Madness tournament games, all in one place. It's March, it's Madness, stream it all on Prime Video. So we appreciate Prime Video for getting that done. As I was saying, our visit to Auburn was first class with how they allowed us the chance to sit down with Coach for as long as they did. And also, Coach was late to practice. Make sure we get that in there. Like, Coach had 2 other interviews with us before he got the chance to sit down with us. And he could have just said, nope, forget it. Don't have time. Come back another time. Instead, came in there at 3:25. Practice started at 3:30 and gave us a solid 15 minutes. So that was phenomenal. I want to start with the intel from what we were able to gauge from watching spring practice. Then I want to tell you all about our visit. So from an intel standpoint, like you heard Coach talk about it during that conversation that we just played for you, true freshman Cam Coleman is every bit as advertised from what we were able to see. Now, obviously, there's still a transition period for him getting up to speed with the college game and the college playbook, but like, dude is a freak show. Okay, like I am not an NFL scout. I am not a scout, period. I have nothing to do with our rankings. But Charles Power and Cody Belaire are the best in the business. They said Cam Coleman's a 5-star plus kind of player, and Hugh Freeze more or less agreed with us during that conversation. Watching him move, even at 3/4 speed, with how big he is, just different. Like I've said that on a previous show, I'm going to say it again. He's just different. When you watch that wide receiver group, and they got some good receivers out there, don't get it twisted, but that true freshman and the way that he was moving through drills and moving through practice just kind of glides. Also, we got to see them run a little bit of some offense on air. There was a pass that was thrown behind him. As big as he is, typically bigger receivers too, it's a little bit more of a chore to reach behind yourself. I mean, you're moving a lot of mass. Cam Coleman very casually reaches back, plucks it out of the air, doesn't break stride, runs up the sideline to finish the drill. I understand. It's routes on air. They weren't wearing helmets. Heck, I don't even think they're wearing shoulder pads. But you know different when you see it. And it's not just me telling you that. It's everybody with a pair of eyeballs that's watched him play ball at the collegiate level this early on. He's going to be a stud. He just does not look like an early enrollee. Now, that's massive because if you're Auburn, you have a big-time offensive weapon that is going to be there for a number of years. But this is also massive for Payton Thorne. Because we've made it pretty transparent. We have our reservations on Payton Thorne from what we saw a season ago. But if you give him an alpha dog wide receiver like Cam Coleman, if he hits the ground running and you give him an outlet pass to work with every single play, knowing, hey, if I get the ball out to 8, we got a chance, how much of a luxury is that for Payton Thorne that wasn't there a season ago? I mean, you heard Hugh Freeze talk about his success that he had at Michigan State. Well, he also had Kalen Coleman going up and getting the ball for him when he was there. So I don't think that's a coincidence. Payton Thorne is someone that I think will be able to benefit a lot from Cam Coleman and how different he's going to be as a freshman. However he hits the ground running, correlate that to the success Payton Thorne, I believe, is going to have. Now, I also think there's some quiet confidence with Payton Thorne. Now, we only got to see, again, nothing super competitive, nothing that was super intense from a 11-on-11 standpoint. We didn't see any 11-on-11. It was a teach day. But I think last year for him, and Hugh Freeze said as much, I think last year was a lot of catch-up for him. Got there after spring practice, new place, new teammates, new system. He's trying to get all up to speed. I think Payton Thorne getting 15 practices now as the guy in Auburn, Alabama, and having a offensive system that Hugh Freeze feels excited about, feels comfortable with, and the way that Hugh Freeze speaks quarterback, I think that's going to pay dividends. Again, we only saw so much with him during spring practice, but there was no question around who was QB1 out there. He looked extremely in control, getting everybody lined up. We saw them go offense on air, but it was like a 2-minute drill. He was dialed in, putting the ball in the right place. Take as much of that as you want to, but I think with Payton Thorne, it would not shock me in the slightest if he took a big leap. Now, that's the ultimate hinge point for Auburn. Whatever you think about Auburn in 2024, and their record is very much so tied to how much success you think Payton Thorne's going to have. But I would not overlook the fact that it's going to be a Hugh Freeze offense. There's a lot of discussion around who's calling plays out there with Coach Nix or Coach Freeze. Whatever it is, it's a Hugh Freeze offense. Payton Thorne will benefit from that. Mark my words. Defensively, DJ Durkin, he's just fun to watch run a defense, man. Like, you can tell he's coached a lot of ball. He's got kind of some wily veteran to him. He's got a standard he's setting out there when you watch them practice. Like, he is demanding the best from everybody, even during an up-tempo walkthrough kind of setting. He wants things done a certain way. He's detail-oriented. And every coach worth their salt is detail-oriented. The thing with DJ Durkin, he's been around the block. He's been around the block in the SEC. He knows what good defense looks like in that conference. And so to have somebody that's been there, done that, seen that, and then can then take that and duplicate that at Auburn, I think should be exciting, will be exciting for the good folks out there on the Plains. Just love the energy he brings to that side of the football, and you heard Hugh Freeze talk about it. That's a factor that's hard to quantify when it comes to what you have on that staff. So that was kind of the intel part of this from what we got to see from practice. Again, only saw so much, but there's a healthy edge, I think, within that team. I think the way that they took Georgia to the last drive and the way they took Alabama to the final play, I think they've kind of seen what they can do as a team. I think they've seen what they can be when they put it all together. This next step now, and you heard Hugh Freeze talk about it, I keep referencing that interview. So if you're watching this in a one-off capacity, go watch that full conversation on our channel. If they do things to the standard that winners do things, kind of cliche to say, but stick with me here. Winners do things the right way all the time, including spring football, including winter conditioning, including how you take care of your body. And when you buy into that and it becomes a player-led thing like Hugh Freeze was speaking to, and you have guys that uphold the standard within the locker room, not just in the meeting room when the coaches are talking to you and yelling at you after practice, that means something. That matters. And the impact of that cannot be overstated. So that was the intel part of things. Now, from the visit point of things, man, I mean, we had a GM of player personnel, Will Redmond, give us the lay of the land. Took about 20 minutes walking us through the whole facility. That Waltos Sports Performance Center, $92 million, about a year old. That place is an absolute spaceship. Like, I've been fortunate to see a couple of facilities in my time, one, doing this as a job, which we're very grateful for, also having played college football. That was the nicest facility I've ever seen. Now, we're going to get to some other places now during this spring field trip season, if you will, but that was the nicest I've ever laid eyes on. Everything within that building is state-of-the-art. Everything within that building is detailed down to the placement of the lights. Like, the lights are even positioned to a place where if you look up at them, it looks like an eagle flying overhead. It's subtle, but it's detailed, and they did not overlook any of those details. The projector that they have in that building is next to their meeting rooms. So you have your meeting rooms around this like strip of what almost looks like a turf field. It's pretty narrow, but what that's there for is for you to walk through during the week your assignments before a game. So they have this projector that projects onto the wall, and it'll show the facing shot. Like if you were on defense, it shows what it would look like if you're lined up on the field against the offense, the on-field view. And so you can walk through your assignment in real time, be able to work the optical part of it. I mean, again, I understand that's the thing that some NFL teams have, some NFL facilities have, but Auburn has that, and I'll tell you what, they probably utilize it. It's nice. Weight room is massive. I mean, they got an uphill field to work your, hill sprints. You can work back pedals down that. They got a box jump staircase. They have as many racks as you need. And then the other cool part that I thought was really, really interesting, they got like a locker room, but within that locker room, they have a lounge. And then next to that, they have where they keep their equipment. So they essentially have two locker rooms. The locker room next to it where they keep their pads is called the Armory. And then the locker room that has the lounge in it is basically just for hanging out and doing what you do in a locker room, which is crack jokes, play games, and hang out with your boys. So Auburn is way ahead of the game in that sense, and I think they're probably setting the standard for the rest of college football. Curious to see if we have more locker rooms like that and more facilities like that going forward in the college football landscape, because all that money now is probably going to acquiring talent. But tell you what, we left that place after seeing the indoor, seeing the practice field, seeing the weight room, seeing the meeting rooms, all the just bells and whistles that they had, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to commit. Like, I'm ready to go play ball for Coach Freeze in Auburn. They have a very clear messaging from the top down with how they're doing things. It's we want to develop you as a person and develop you as a player. Those things are equally important to us. In fact, we want to develop you as a person first, and we care about you not just for what you can do for us on the football field, but how you're going to be a man, be a student. And some of that's cliche. Some of that just every place will tell you and talk about during a recruiting visit. I don't think it's just lip service with this staff and with Hugh Freeze. So they got to focus on adding talent. They landed a top 10 class in 2024. That was not by accident. I don't think that's the last top 10 class that they're going to land out there on the Plains. So our visit to Auburn was second to none, first class in every single sense of the phrasing, and we cannot wait to get out on the road and see some more places. But the people at Auburn, man, they treated us right, and that was a blast. Worth noting, make sure you subscribe to the On3 YouTube channel here, because we may have some more content from our visit to Auburn, pending some green lights from the folks out there at Auburn. But just saying, be subscribed. Keep your eye on the socials, at JD Piquel, Twitter and Instagram. I think that will you won't be sorry for doing that. All I'm going to say. So Ohio State has been on a heater. Currently the number 1 class in all of 2025. They have 11 commitments. They had a massive weekend. 4 commits in 3 days. Guys like TJ Alford, 4-star linebacker, London Merritt, a 4-star edge, Desi Jones, the 4-star wide receiver with his teammate, 4-star corner Deshaun Stewart. They went to work. And then on top of that, they landed, I believe it was either this morning or last night. I'm not sure when it became official. But bottom line is they got a new running back coach, Carlos Lachlan from Oregon. Big time get for them, in my opinion. I don't think you leave a place like Oregon unless you feel really good about the direction of your next destination, which is, of course, Ohio State for Carlos Lachlan. This was massive for them. So I want us to unpack the Carlos Lachlan hire, and then I want us to unpack on a macro level what Ryan Day is doing right now at Ohio State. To start with Carlos Lachlan, like I just said, you don't leave Oregon, in my opinion, which is a school in the Big Ten, for a job within the same conference if you don't feel good about the direction in Columbus, if you don't feel good about the way that Ryan Day has that thing trending. And some folks will say, well, it's Ohio State, it's the brand. That might have been true, I think, 5 years ago with Ohio State being this massively superior brand to Oregon. But Oregon, if I'm buying stock in a program, like I'm thinking twice about what Dan Lanning is doing there. I don't think that was an easy decision just to leave Eugene and leave what they've got cooking out there. Carlos Lachlan, as a recruiter, I think he is going to be even better at Ohio State than he was at Oregon because of the trend that they're on right now, because of the on-field success that I think they're going to have. Also, just the fact that you don't have to take a plane flight to see some of the top recruits in the country if you're Carlos Lachlan. You love Eugene, Oregon. You love the state of Oregon. But most of the top talent that you're recruiting, if you're on that staff at Oregon, is not within a 100-mile radius. You can't take a car and go see your top target. At Ohio State, you have more accessibility to some of this talent. Also worth noting, he was a good recruiter at Oregon. Landed 2 top 100 tailbacks, was involved in a number of other high-profile recruits that Oregon ended up landing. I love the way he communicates with his guys. And I'm only speaking from as Dan Lanning would say, the window view of what we got to see from how he operates at Oregon. There's a great mic'd up segment they have on the Oregon socials I would go check out if I was an Ohio State fan. He operates from a place of, I want what's best for you as a player. And some people will be quick to say, well, he's just doing that because it's on the segment where he knows he's mic'd up during practice, or I didn't get that vibe. I got the sense when watching that clip of Carlos Lachlan communicate with his running backs at Oregon, he wants them to be the best version of themselves, and he knows the best version of themselves is going to take different communication for different guys. Like there's a segment in that short snippet we saw on social media. Running back at Oregon doesn't do something right. Carlos Lachlan says, I need my up downs. Does his up downs. Carlos Lachlan then goes and talks to him and says, it's not punishment, it's positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement is what he's trying to, I think, send the messaging to his guys as a running back coach, period. So maybe we're extrapolating a little too much from a 1-minute view into Carlos Lachlan as a coach, but again, what he's done as a recruiter and the way that he's going to impact at Ohio State, I think, is going to be massive. So that's the Carlos Lachlan hire. Now, on a macro level, we talked about it on a one-off video yesterday on the On3 YouTube channel. So being subscribed to be ahead of these live shows, I think, would be something I'd recommend to this channel. Keep on being told from different people across college football how college football is a talent acquisition game. You got to have the Jimmies and the Joes. You can have good coaches. That's part of it, sure. And by the way, they added really good coaches in Chip Kelly and Carlos Lachlan. You got to have the right guys on your roster to win ball games. And then Ryan Day continues to knock it out of the park. By nature of them landing 4 commitments in the last 3 days, having the top class in 2025, and this is not really a new thing for them. I think over the last 6 months, I would have a tough time saying that someone has been a better talent adder than Ryan Day and his staff. Will Howard from Kansas State, proven commodity, upgrade at quarterback. Keep your Kyle McCord comps to yourself. Quinshon Judkins, proven commodity in the SEC. He's going to be a dog for them. Pair him with Travion Henderson, fresh legs all day. Caleb Downs, the top player in the portal. I myself was saying, hey, I think it's Georgia. He's from Georgia. I know Georgia was in the mix there at the end for him when it came to National Signing Day at the high school level. He ends up going to Ohio State. And then they got the number 1 player in the entire class of 2024, held on to the top player in 2024, and Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver out of the state of Florida. And then they landed Julian Sayin, the top quarterback, or one of the top quarterbacks, rather, in the class of 2024, just because they could when Nick Saban ended up retiring. Obviously, that was kind of a field day for the transfer portal, and Julian Sayin transferred from Alabama to Ohio State. So the bottom line here is Ryan Day is on a heater. This staff is on a heater. Ohio State continuing to add top talent. And there's going to be a lot of folks that say, well, they've always had top talent. I think a degree of that is true. But I would also say in the era that we're in right now in college football, Ohio State has not always been able to go and add your top talent to their roster. Your top player jumps in the portal, and they say, hey, you want to go play at Ohio State? And they say, okay, yeah, for sure, I want to wear that Buckeye helmet. That's new to the game. And I tell you what, the way that Ohio State has won the portal as of late over the last 6 months, I don't think that's going to be a thing that just bubbles up right now and then somehow they're not a player in future recruitments. I think Ohio State's going to be a force adding talent in the portal now as well. However you slice it, they're playing ball. They're playing ball. Whether you want to call it an NIL operation, whether you want to call it the staff being aggressive, they are playing ball in what it takes to add top talent in modern college football. And it hasn't always been that way at Ohio State when it comes to the portal, when it comes to the NIL landscape. Hasn't always been that way. It is now. And I said this yesterday, I'm going to say it again. If this is the new Ohio State in terms of adding talent, if they're going to press the envelope every single offseason and go and add top players in the portal and go and add top talent at the high school level, they are going to win a national championship. I didn't say if they win a national championship, when they win a national championship under Ryan Day. And the next thing you're going to hear now after folks hear that statement of Ryan Day is not going to a national championship. He almost did it against Georgia in that college football playoff semifinal, almost had a field goal go through the uprights as the clock struck midnight, and then they would have been the team that put TCU in a body bag. They would have been that team that beat TCU by 40 or 50 points. No disrespect to TCU, but I think we can all understand how that game was going to go if it was Ohio State or if it was Georgia. It is very clear now that Ohio State is evolving. They're evolving. Like, say what you want about the past. We're not living in the past. Ryan Day is still a first-time head coach. He's had some years under his belt now, but to assume that he's just going to stay stagnant as a head coach in the way that Ohio State plays football, you're not paying attention. Because Ohio State, a couple of years ago, had a tough time playing defense. I mean, I think we all saw when Mario Cristobal and I think it was C.J. Verdell playing running back for Oregon that day. And they pretty much just ran up and down the chute. I think C.J. Stroud was a redshirt freshman at that point in time. Oregon did whatever they wanted. Ryan Day says, we got to make changes, goes and hires Jim Knowles. Ohio State had a top 10 defense last year, probably going to have a top 10 defense yet again this year because they bring everybody back, and they add in Caleb Downs. They're continuing to evolve. And then folks will be very quick to say, well, what about Michigan? Hey, 0-3 the last couple of years against Michigan. There's no excuse for that. I'm not here to defend them going 0-3 against Michigan. That's bad. That's not the standard at Ohio State. But is it more likely that Ohio State is just soft, not tough enough, not good enough to win a national championship, even though they were on the doorstep of doing that 2 years ago? Or is it more likely that maybe Michigan had 20-plus NFL dudes, a Joe Moore Award caliber offensive line the last couple of years? They won the Joe Moore Award 2 years ago, and just kind of was able to have a better outfit on that day against Ohio State. It is what it is. Again, I'm not defending Ohio State losing to Michigan, but I just think the context within this whole conversation has to be evaluated a little bit more closely. All right? I understand now that the folks at Ohio State are not thrilled with the way that things have gone the last couple of years. You still have a head coach that's won 87% of his games. Okay? He's still one of the best in the business. Hasn't gotten over the hump in beating Michigan the last 3 years. They haven't won the national title, won the Big Ten the last couple of years. I understand that. That's frustrating. But look around, man. These are still first world problems. And Ryan Day is still on the climb to get Ohio State to where he expects them to be. So say what you want. Ohio State acquiring top talent at a staff level on the recruiting trail. I think that story is far from finished in Columbus. And I think Ohio State and Ryan Day as a head coach is far from a finished product as well. Let me know in the comment section, man. Let me know for y'all that are watching on YouTube or y'all that are listening on the podcast. Let me know your thoughts around Ryan Day and his evolution and his story out there at Ohio State. Make sure you mention the fact that he's won 87% of his games. That's my opinion. Now, speaking of success at Ohio State, let's talk about success somewhere else in the country. What does success look like for Alabama and Kalen DeBoer his first year on the job? Now, I think we're going to have a lot of y'all watch this video as a one-off. So if you're watching right now live, we appreciate y'all. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you're watching as a one-off video, this is from a live show that we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. games, transfer portal, analysis across everything across college football. We talk about it right here, year-round. We don't take breaks. Make sure you're locked in. We appreciate you so much in advance for being subscribed to the channel. So Nick Saban, just for the record, inherited Alabama in a different place than Kalen DeBoer did, but he went 7-6. A lot of context there that doesn't apply to Kalen DeBoer that applied to Nick Saban at that point in time. Like I just said, Alabama was not Alabama to the degree they are right now when Nick Saban got it, but I'm just saying he's 7-6. So what would be success for Kalen DeBoer his first year in Tuscaloosa? We're going to give you a record here in a matter of minutes, but I don't think we can just say this is the record he has to have, otherwise season is a failure. Let's be a little bit more nuanced than that. You got a lot of folks that are going to say he's got to go 11-1, he's got to win the SEC for it to be success. I hear you, but let's add some human components to this whole conversation. I'm really curious to see how Alabama looks against top-tier teams, especially in the SEC. And I think that's going to be a massive part of how you define success if you're an Alabama fan. That game against Georgia, September 28th, at Tennessee, which you never know what Tennessee is going to be, at LSU, new quarterbacks for both LSU and Tennessee. You're at Oklahoma late in the year. What's Bama look like late? Auburn's always tricky. Like, I'm curious to see how those teams compete and if there's still that Bama factor. Is there still like that Bama standard that we've come to expect from that team that Nick Saban's been coaching over the course of the last 15-plus years? Do they still meet challenges within the game how elite competitors do? Because for me, that's in large part a reflection of your staff and in large part a reflection of your preparation. Alabama has been Alabama for the course of the last 17 years. Yes, because they've had the top talent in the country. There's no way around that. But because of how Nick Saban pushed these guys during the week, how they prepared during the week to meet those challenges. Does Bama still meet Georgia with physicality? Do they meet LSU on the perimeter and battle with them at LSU in Death Valley? I'm assuming that's going to be a night game. How do you meet those challenges against the creme de la creme of the conference and of college football? Are they physical? Are they resilient? Do they execute their game plan? The eye test, I think, is going to be very, very important to determine success that first year for Kalen DeBoer. Also, I think we got to ask this question. Is there an established identity for this team? Is there an established identity? Because I think when you look at what they were last year, I don't know they really found their identity as a team until that game against LSU where Jalen Milroe went berserk. Like, I think each team has a different identity, but again, in large part, you get your identity from who your head coach is, from who your leadership is. And I think for this staff, a big part of them finding that identity schematically is going to be able to shift what they want to do schematically and what their plan has been strategically at their different stops. Obviously, Kalen DeBoer most recently at Washington. Can they take their plan and mold that to their ingredients on the roster? Jalen Milroe is obviously going to be the most visible talking point of that whole discussion when it comes to Alabama. Because I think for Alabama, they have to be multiple, both offensively and defensively, to win at the level they expect to win at. Like, I understand Kalen DeBoer has thrown the ball 40-plus times on average his last 4 seasons. I understand that's who they want to be. You got a quarterback who doesn't throw the ball 40 times. Bama, as a team last year, averaged 23 attempts per game. Bama, historically, has been a pound-the-rock operation. That's been kind of their MO. I'm not saying Kalen DeBoer has to be a physical outfit going forward, even though his offensive line did win the Joe Moore Award last year. I'm just saying, can you still have your identity as a coach and as a staff and shift that and mold that to your roster ingredients? We've talked about that a lot, but I think that has to happen. Show me there's direction from Alabama. Show me there's direction for where this thing is headed. Because if you have this kind of muddled picture of it's kind of Saban's team, but like a diet version of that, and then you kind of have some DeBoer influence in there, if you're going 3 different directions, you're not going anywhere at all. You're just tugging on the rope a couple different directions and having some stagnant, uncomfortable conversations and some not fun results, to be real. So when we talk about record, because that's what's going to kind of be the headline for whatever year one is for Kalen DeBoer, I'd put a record for success at 10-2. Now, I think that has to look the right way if you're 10-2. Now, a lot of folks are going to say, well, you know, we win the SEC here, Bama. That's the standard. Nick Saban left a ton of talent here. That's the standard for us. We won the SEC last year with Jalen Milroe. We got to win the SEC championship or bust. I hear what you're saying. I love the passion. I promise you I do. You should have high expectations for that script day. You should feel a certain way about your football team. But understand now, you lose 3/4 of that defensive production from last year. You bring in a brand new staff to a new place. Let's give it a little bit of time to gel. I'm not saying you can't still win the SEC and win the national championship because you got the roster talent to do it, quite frankly. But I'm just making sure we're on the same page here. There could be an acclimation period for Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Now, the reason why I say 10-2 and the reason why I mentioned 10-2 having to look a certain way, I think Georgia's really tough. I think LSU's really tough. Again, where there's a tremendous question mark around Missouri this year. You never know with Auburn. Like, I think 10-2 is the number that I would peg as the successful season for Kalen DeBoer, because when I look at this roster, I think they should be able to roll the ball out there from a roster talent level and be better than 10 teams. Now, being better at a roster level and actually winning the football game is two very different things, and that's going to come down to how they prepare this offseason and what they do schematically and staying healthy. A lot of factors. When we talk about success, I think they are better right now, today, than 10 teams that they're going to play. But 9-3, a lot of folks wouldn't be happy with that probably. 3 losses isn't something they really are super accustomed to in Tuscaloosa. But again, if it's the right looking 9-3, I think you could convince me that's I don't want to say success, but I think you would at least have some direction you could bake in there. But the bottom line here is it's going to take some time. Going to take some time. The roster's in a good place. Nick Saban left some solid things in the cupboard on that roster for Kalen DeBoer, but I just want to make sure we're on the same page there. Success could look a lot of different ways. 10-2, I think, would be very successful in a lot of ways for Kalen DeBoer first year on the job. All right. Appreciate everybody dialed in live. I'm going to get your questions here in just a matter of moments. Nick Brake on the ones and twos producing the show here. If you have been with us for some period of time on this show, you know that we endorse a lot of things. We endorse college football Saturdays being sacred. We endorse, what else do we endorse? We endorse field storming. We endorse talking smack during the offseason. And we fully and wholeheartedly endorse spring propaganda. So with that being said, I put the call to action out on my Twitter page, @JDPickel, and I said, what is the best spring propaganda that has hit your timeline thus far? Now, this is some spring propaganda that broke over the weekend with Student Appreciation Day out there at Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith, we're going to play this clip for you, absolutely lit the whole place on fire. Like, there's probably this part of you, if you're an Ohio State fan, saying, you know, don't get too hyped, don't get too hyped, don't get too hyped. And oh my gosh, Jeremiah Smith just made this play and it's on my Twitter feed. Not just the fact that he adjusted to the football in the air, and he's a true freshman going out and tracking this thing and throws the ball like a dog at the end there. Absolutely love that mentality from number 4. But it's also the fact that look at who's in coverage here. If you're listening on podcast, I'll kind of illustrate it for you. You got Denzel Burke, who's an all Big Ten selection at corner, and you got Caleb Downs, who's a freshman All-American at safety, kind of both playing in the hip pocket of sorts over Jeremiah Smith. Snags the ball, acrobatic catch. Get hyped. Get hyped if you're an Ohio State fan. I understand we're kind of trying to temper expectations a little bit around this kid. I would say forget tempering expectations. Get fired up. He's going to be a dog day one. A play like that only juices that up even further if you're an Ohio State fan. I'll stay in the Big Ten Conference, and this is a really short clip we're going to play here because we don't want to get copyrighted all the way to prison. Dylan Raiola is an early enrollee. Rocket launching here, as you see if you're watching on YouTube, right in the bucket, baby. Right in the absolute bucket. This gives me some really good vibes for a lot of reasons. Tight spiral, if you're looking at this thing on YouTube. Ball turns over. It's not something that's fluttering and kind of hanging up there in the air. Turns over like an absolute missile. Outside shoulder, too. So if the DB's playing inside, that's in the perfect spot. Also, he just looks cool, dude. He's got the shooting sleeve on, the throwing arm. Got the visor, got the hand warmer in the back there. Dylan Raiola's got the lettuce out the back of the helmet too. Like, get fired up. And some people are going to say, well, JD, you're getting too hyped about this. You're getting too hyped around one clip, one throw from Dylan Raiola. I would say, you know what? You're getting too hyped. Don't tell me I'm getting too hyped. You're getting too hyped. It's Nebraska offensive football that's been kind of let's call it a spade a spade. It's been the weak point for Alabama, for Nebraska over the course of the last year. They scored 18 points a game. 18 points a game last season. They threw for 136 yards a game. This is the great hope for Nebraska is Dylan Raiola. Get fired up, some great spring propaganda, and we appreciate the good folks out there in Lincoln for allowing us to use that clip. So YouTube, don't copyright us here. Next spring propaganda. Quarterbacks are a big staple here for spring propaganda. Check out Cam Ward. Just dealing the pill like a shady pharmacist here at spring practice. Now, I understand this is ISO footage of him. Oh, nice little throw in the middle of the net there. I love this one right here. Uncorks it deep. Ball has more RPMs than Steve Wiltfong dropped yesterday. This is a reason to be excited. Also, look at the swag on him, too. We got the towel, we got the shooting sleeve, we got the visor, got the little hop as we throw the football away in quick game. I understand. It's early, and this is a nice one here right now. Drops it in the bucket. I don't know how far that is. Might be 30 yards, might be 40 yards, could be 50 yards. But just the overall swag from the dude. He's out there playing darts in real time at spring practice right now if you're Miami. People are going to say, calm down. Say, no, you calm down. This dude is playing darts at spring practice. As an offense, Miami, 3.5% of the passes they threw last year. 3.5% ended in interceptions. And we got this dude putting on an aerial assault during the indoor open practice period for our media. So I'd be fired up, a Miami fan. I understand the juice. I'd be juiced too. Last one to get to here, staying in the Sunshine State. This is one we're not going to play a video because I do think we'd get copyrighted, so we're not going to do that here. Just going to show you a little freeze frame. Keziah Holmes, 215 pounds, hurdling another grown man. Now, you lose Trey Benson. He had 900 yards last year, 14 touchdowns. You got Roydell Williams, Lawrence Toafili. But Keziah Holmes providing a little spring propaganda to your timeline, jumping over another dude. That has to be exciting, man. That has to be exciting because that's kind of been the bread and butter for Florida State over the last couple of seasons with Jordan Travis running the show. DJU now, you're breaking a new quarterback, so that makes the run game even more important. To be able to have a balanced attack offensively and to know that defenses have to worry about you pounding the rock and throwing it deep, I understand. It's one snapshot. You can watch the full clip on Twitter if you want to. It'll get you even more juice. But I'm just telling you, for those of y'all that are listening on podcast, I'll paint the picture. Keziah Holmes is hurdling, as I've said multiple times here, another grown man, and he doesn't even break stride after that. So to do that at 215 makes it even more impressive. But all we're trying to say here is there's a lot of propaganda out there. Some folks say don't buy into it. We say the exact opposite. We say get fired up. Drink all the Kool-Aid you can. Don't lose your spring season. All right? So with that being said, speaking of spring season, we're going to go to the man who enjoys spring about as much as anybody else that I know, and that is the heavy lifter extraordinaire, producer of the Hard Count, Nick Brake. Nick, I kind of just said that about you. Do you love spring? I have no idea if you love spring.
I do like spring.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's pretty relaxing, honestly.
Well, hey, let's I said we go up tempo today. We've gone long. Let's go 3 questions.
Yep.
So best 3 questions we got here. Everyone getting the live chat right now. Like the video. That helps your helps the percentage chances. I don't know if that's true either. Helps the percentage chances probably of getting your question selected.
Yeah.
Maybe true, maybe not true. I don't know.
So.
I'm just saying things today. I'm just sort of saying things that sound like they could be true.
Yeah.
But regardless, we got anything the folks are saying here, Nick?
We do. Let me turn myself down a little bit though.
You're great.
Yeah, well, there was a question at the very beginning of the show I want to get to. It is from T. Smith 0323. Says, ask JD, how do we feel about Notre Dame's 2025 recruiting class?
Let's take a look at where they're ranked right here because these things are always shifting. I did see, I think they have like 19 commitments, does Notre Dame. I know they're in the top 10. I'm going to make sure I check before I speak about anything specifically here. I'll say this, Notre Dame is no stranger to recruiting well early. They're number 5 right now in the On3 industry team recruiting rankings. Again, 19 total commitments. The reason why I say they're no stranger to recruiting well early, you've seen guys commit early and then flip later in the cycle closer to signing day. That's not me speaking that over you if you're a Notre Dame fan. I would never do such a thing. But I understand if you're being maybe a little hesitant, a little rod wave protocol. Heart been broke so many times, I don't know what to believe if I'm a Notre Dame fan and I'm tracking recruiting. I think the thing that encourages me the most, if I'm a Notre Dame fan, is the way that Marcus Freeman has continued to push the envelope in acquiring talent. Not just at the high school level, but also at the portal level. So you're 5 right now in the rankings. Let's see how this thing shakes out. I understand now you want to get a lot of your guys on campus early if you're Notre Dame because the visits, the weather's good when you visit in the spring. The weather's good when you visit in the summer. But in the fall and in the winter, it gets a little bit less ideal if I'm from Florida and I'm walking around and it's 30 degrees or it's 40 degrees. A little uncomfortable for me. I'm encouraged about Notre Dame. I think Marcus Freeman has got that thing headed the right direction, which sounds kind of cliche, but we got to talk to him. I think his philosophy around adding talent and pushing the envelope, second to none. So to give you a direct answer to your question, I'm really excited about Notre Dame, and I think they're headed I think they're going to be – see, I'm just saying things again. The fact that they have 19 commitments already, like the number one class is 11. Like, I don't think – again, I'm checking myself to make sure I don't give us some sort of incorrect information. I think that's the most commitments, at least in the top 25. It might be in the top 50, Nick. So
yep.
They're doing some work by stock in Notre Dame recruiting. How about that?
Yeah, and Marcus Freeman was awesome when we talked to him.
Dude, such a cool guy.
Really cool guy. Yeah, I agree.
I would play for him too.
Me too. Yeah, I would absolutely. Matthew Armstrong says, SJD, what do you think of Clemson and Florida State, I'm assuming he means instead Florida, joining the Big Ten in 2025? Do you think Notre Dame would follow suit eventually if that were to happen?
I would say Florida State to the Big Ten, Clemson to the Big Ten makes sense to me. I don't know if it's Florida State and Miami that would leave together or if it's Clemson and Miami that would leave together because I think they would probably leave in a pair. So I'll just say, excuse me, to answer that question, that duo to the Big Ten is what I would put my prediction towards when it comes to conference realignment. Now for Notre Dame, golly, man, we talked to Marcus Freeman about this too, and I thought he had a great answer, but like, I wonder how much that NBC money means when it gets in the way of their competitive aspirations. Like, I understand having millions of dollars from NBC being your, television rights provider and all those things. I'm sure, like, the dollars check out just fine there. But, like, what happens when Notre Dame's the number one team in the country, undefeated, and they have to watch, on conference title weekend, and then they end up being the number 5 team in the country, and they miss out on getting a bye, and, like, I understand in the current format they can't get a bye anyway, I don't believe. So all this to say, I'm curious how that's going to evolve. I think at some point they got to join a conference, just how college football is evolving, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
It would really have to be the Big Ten as well because NBC also has that. So if that were to still be a factor, I think that would help. But maybe that just –
aren't they with the ACC in basketball? Is that accurate?
Yes, they are.
They did the ACC during the COVID year too.
Yeah. So
we'll see, man. That'd be massive if the ACC can make a play at them. Golly, I don't think it's going to happen, but that would be – I mean, that's their lifeboat, right, if you're the ACC.
Yeah, and then NBC – or then ESPN's like, oh, thank you. We've got a team from the ACC that people want to, tune in.
Yeah, count us in. Mm-hmm. What do you say? One more to send us out of here on a beautiful Hugh Freeze Tuesday.
Absolutely. Hey, Kay says, what's up? What's up, Kay?
What's up, Kay?
Haven't seen you in here for a while. Well – so I will say, OG Gary, come back tomorrow, my friend. We'll get to your question because I do really like Jonathan Rayfield's question. It says, what teams have the best opportunity to ruin Georgia's chances at a national championship this year? Why and how? Probably not Jonathan's Nebraska this year, but maybe in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate Jonathan bringing the juice. I'm pulling up Georgia's schedule here so I can give you my thoughts because that game against Texas – that'll be tough. But the thing now with the new college football playoff format is like, how many times do you have to beat Georgia to ruin their season? Like, I do not see a path where Georgia somehow is left out of the college football playoff. The sky would have to fall for Georgia to not make this 12-team playoff, in my professional opinion. Now, with that being said, when you get to the playoff, it's anyone's guess who they draw. I think it would probably have to be someone that can match them on the line of scrimmage, like Ohio State maybe, per se. You would hope Texas, if they can reload and be solid, maybe we see a round 2 or round 3 for Texas and Georgia. It's tough to beat anybody multiple times. That would be the only paths that I could see, at least as we sit here in March. Like, I think Ohio State matches up well roster-wise, and I think Texas, if you have to play them 2 or 3 times, I don't like giving Steve Sarkisian that many bullets to take you down. So Ole Miss is obviously intriguing. I think they're at Ole Miss there in the early parts of November. Yeah, that's a pretty broad answer, but I think Ohio State, Texas in round 2 or 3. Outside of that, man, like, they're going to be at a talent advantage against everybody they play. Nick?
Yeah, and I don't want to I don't want to shoot down Jonathan's Nebraska. I mean, I don't take a shot at you, my friend.
With that Dylan Raiola clip, him just launching missiles.
Yep.
You never know.
Yep.
You never
Absolutely.
know. You never know. Well, Nick, I appreciate you, brother. What do you say? Same time tomorrow?
Same time tomorrow, my friend.
Beautiful. Appreciate Nick Brake making it all happen here. If we didn't get to your question today, we're going to do our best to get to it tomorrow. So come back same time, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on the On3 YouTube channel, talking ball every single day. We're so grateful for y'all to spend some time with us, making us a part of your week, making us a part of your day. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.